Whoever started the concept. Yeah, sure. Yes, Derek, yeah, you know. Derek.
How do I get into Blackboard? Pull up my phone.
Okay, let me just sorry, let me get out because then no.
How do I get into Blackboard? Pull up my phone. Thank you so much. Oh, no, so that's right. Wait, how do I go? And
Have you submitted it?
yeah,
Okay, so do you want me to pull it out?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay, all right. So the grade books, I'm just going to. Okay. Derek, what's your last name?
Murphy.
Okay. Derek, yeah, got it. If you all want to put it now so that you don't have to get into your account and I can just get it out, you can just put all your presentations, send it to me and then, because I think I'm still, this is your account or my account, Derek?
Huh?
Is this my account? Yeah, this is my
Yeah, that's
account.
your
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so how do I, okay, this is how it's showing. But so you did a PDF,
Yeah.
which is fine, which is fine. Would you prefer it this way or you don't want anything here showing in the side?
I don't want anything there. If that's
Okay.
possible. Just for-
Okay, so then this is good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Good to go?
Yeah, 1 second, let me timer. Okay, yeah, go.
Okay, so as I've kind of talked about in this class, I'm currently working for a creative agency in Nashville that offers, branding, audio, visual, graphic design, social media management, and ad sales. So we work with Nashville clientele right now. So the two main podcasts that we work on is called Just Be in Earnest. He's a country singer and songwriter. And then the biggest one is a Barstool Sports podcast called Bussin' with the Boys, who's hosted by NFL players and the left tackle for the Tennessee Titans. And who I'm interviewing is actually my boss, Alex Lagos. He kind of began as a freelance social media manager in 2016 and branched into podcasting in 2018. And along with producing podcasts, he actually has a YouTube series called Bus Stop Sessions, which goes with the NFL podcast, and they do live music and kind of get these up and coming artists on YouTube and kind of a platform to grow. And this is pretty sweet. I didn't know, he actually told me this when I first got hired, but he was the first one to do a focus or a video focused content model. And what that means is called a carousel. So if you see ESPN, SportsCenter, any podcast do like a graphic or a photo and you swipe and to see a video of it, he did that. He kind of brought that to podcasting. So he's kind of a trailblazer in that sense, where he wanted to do something different and incorporate his own thing and make it big, and it's gone mainstream pretty much. And then some trends and insight questions I'd like to ask him is like, even though we work with like big clientele right now and their fan base is only growing, what's his vision in 5 years? Like, what's his short-term vision the next 5 years, and kind of what are his goals for that and goals for the company? Because I think I kind of know, but I know he wants to grow and get bigger and be one of the biggest ones. Because right now, like I said, we only have 5 employees and we do 6 or 7 podcasts. So I just kind of want to pick his brain about what's his idea for the future. And I'd like to know, could he ever see it leaving Nashville, expanding out of Nashville? Because right now, like I said, it's Nashville-based clientele. So I'm kind of curious to see how big he wants to branch it out. And then kind of like just personal questions, kind of like that success stories, like where did your love for social media come about in the management of it? Like, I feel like that's such a unique thing, especially when social media was in its like infidelity when he was growing up. So I'm kind of curious about that. And, did he always have the belief of his success, where he was going to be now? Because he was a baseball player in college and stuff. So I'm kind of eager to see, like, did he always believe in himself? And if he did, where did that come from? Where did that confidence grow from? And then what made him make the jump to Nashville? He's an East Coast kid. So moving to Nashville out on a limb is just like a random place to start. So I kind of want to know what connections he had or like what he was pursuing to begin with. And then, so I kind of want to pick his brain about his philosophy of resumes, because he doesn't look at resumes. So like when he hired me, didn't look at my resume, he just saw my work and said, hey, we'll bring you on. So I'm kind of curious at how that came about and if he's always been like that. And then some resource and assignment questions. How did the carousel, like I said, to Instagram come about? Where did the ideas stem from? And how does he feel knowing that he kind of changed the game with podcasting? I want to know, like, just does he sense a personal achievement, or is he just doesn't care about it? That's, what we wanted to do. And then pick his brain about how he's extremely open to ideas and new concepts, especially for me, from being creative. And I kind of want to know if he's always been like that, or he had experiences where maybe he was micromanaging and it didn't turn out so well. So I kind of want to see where, his openness for creativity comes from. And then his ideal working situation for employees. Like, I work remote, but it's his ideal to be in Nashville, be in a building, build this company out. And so I kind of want to see how he responds to that question as well, because I could do this remote for the rest of my life, but I don't know if that's ideal for him. And then that kind of ties into, I want to kind of see what his vision for the culture is, and what is his culture right now, and how does he want to maintain it? And just his outlook on the company itself. So, yeah.
All right.
Right. Sweet.
Let me know when it will bring to the interview.
I still have to set it up. I'm sure next week probably. He's only a text away, so it's not too bad.
Right. Who's going to go next? Go down time. Next. Thank you. Abigail. Okay.
I emailed you it because
Yeah, that's fine.
put the same files with the same name.
Yeah.
So
Can you send it to my, I can just look up.
I sent it to your North Central one.
Okay. Give me a second. Abigail. All right, so Callie, you also present, can you, Cal, is it possible for you to put it in the folder, your speech? Callie, what's in, Cal, right, that's what I did. So can you put it, did you also put it in the, on Blackboard? Okay, because I can see, I didn't see it in the morning, so I just thought that maybe it would make it easier.
Oh, yeah, I
Yes.
did it like before Darren's speech.
Okay, all right, great. Okay. So I'll open it for you and I will download it, right? So how do I start slideshow? So good.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So one thing, if you're going here, then you're not going to be. So the utmost that you can go is here.
Okay.
You can see yourself. There is the timing. Just a few minutes. I have to just write something of the last presentation. Again, if you're ready, I'm ready to.
So for my informational interview, I'm interviewing June Keeley. She was my boss this summer. So this summer I worked for the Illinois Valley Coastal Shrimp. It's a summer league wood bat baseball team. So all the college students from across the country would play baseball here. We had guys from California all the way up to local North Central guys. There's a wide range. This summer we have a couple boys coming from Hawaii all the way down. We have guys coming from Florida. And again, we have some local guys coming back. There's a wider range. I chose her because of the atypical experience of the Illinois Valley Pistol Shrimp, but also the atypical experience of her career. She started off in the police force and did all of that. And then she switched over to sales for the Pistol Shrimp and then pitched to be the general manager because they didn't have one. And now she's the general manager. She jokes this is like her retirement, even though being a general manager of a team is very stressful. So kind of wanted to pick her brains on how she made that switch, how she was navigating life. She started from like a small town and then moved to Wheaton, so kind of what all of that was about and kind of how she ended up here. A little background on the organization. Illinois Valley Pistol Shrimp originated in Ohio, so the owner's from California. He has a co-partnership with someone here. So that's how we found the Naperville area, and then he's from Detroit originally. Found Lyle, so started the team up in Lyle. COVID hit. Benedictine said, we don't know if we can have fans, so they moved the team to Peru, Illinois, and then in 2 months created a whole season work. So that's also a very impressive story on its own. So also picking her brains on like how maneuvering that whole location change and then creating a whole season in a new location in 2 months. Kind of that, and that's when I started working for them. So I do have a little more insight on that, but really seeing like what is nuts and bolts because I'm in school and I'm in season. So it's hard to see like when you're not fully integrated. So kind of the trends I would ask her is first kind of focusing more on the company. So what was the success compared to Peru and Lyle? Because I know the Peru is the forever home, so kind of what she sees is the difference and why Peru is the better of the locations. What is the big goal for the season? Because this is year 2 down there, so kind of how she's thinking bigger and better and getting everything there. What is the 5-year goal? I kind of have a gist already because we've been talking about it for so long, but kind of what she sees the big 5-year plan is, and for the whole area, because I know they have big developmental plans, not just for them, but for the whole area, making that a hotbed. State of the organization and concerns, just kind of seeing where it is, because it is a smaller organization. They only have 2 full-time employees technically, so kind of what that is like. Insights, kind of looking more for ourselves, like the biggest risk, ask her some little more fun questions of like, there's a documentary about yourself, like what would you want in there, but it's only 10 minutes long, so kind of keep that a little more lighthearted, and also look into the switch from a police officer to the sports world, because even though they work together, they're still very different spheres of what you have to do.
Right.
Resources, so kind of because sports is forever changing, especially with COVID, just kind of like how do you stay current, how do you use the other teams and organizations to help you, what makes the prospect league very successful, and kind of what how do you use outside like football or bocce, or like how do you take inspirations from those to run a successful baseball team. Kind of this is also goes off the more fun questions of like, what is the craziest thing that like you had to sign somewhere? What is the craziest thing you had to do? And then kind of a little more serious of like, what does a typical game day look like, or non-typical game day? And just looking at that of like, kind of like the more fun stuff that happens, because I've experienced it, but also she sees it from a different lens. So kind of seeing like, she can say, oh yeah, we had this time versus like, oh, we had this. So that would make for some good banter and humor. And kind of lastly, like I feel like she's a very strong candidate, because everything I said is she went from a cop to a salesperson to the GM, and it's a very atypical career, especially within the organization and the group and everything. So I feel like it'll be a very great insight for me. Even if I take 1 or 2 things out, that means I'm 1 or 2 things better than I was before I interviewed her.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Does she know it when your interview with her is?
No, she is out of town this week, but I'm probably gonna just take her out to dinner because she's local in the area. So I'm gonna see her.
Nice. Yes. Paulina. And Paulina now. Paulina, very big, did you send it? You want me to?
It's on the, it should be on the blackboard. Do I just
Okay.
go on the blackboard here?
Yeah, I can just put it up to you.
Okay.
We just keep adding.
Yes, please. Yeah. Yeah, so full grade center. You know the last name? Yeah, so B, so. Yeah, yeah. Or did you put it here, informative discussion? You posted there, so here? Okay, so I'll just post here, this is the one, okay. I'll make sure. This is the one, right? Okay, all right, so should be good. Enable editing. You want the slideshow, right?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, so slideshow from beginning. Paulina, for us. No, just a few seconds. While I just need to do some more. All right.
So in this presentation, I'm going to start off with the guidelines, so what facilitated my search, and then I'll go through findings, the company I chose, the interviewee, and then questions that I'll be asking during the interview. So in terms of guidelines for my search, I wanted an experienced individual, like we talked about in the last class discussion, someone who has many certifications and can provide many points of views. In my case, I found someone that was a little unconventional because she started off as a chemistry major, but then changed her path and then has been with it since. So she still is experienced, but she didn't start off with that in the first place. And then I wanted a company that was parallel to my own characteristics. Flexjobs.com, a website that I was researching, shows that if you find a company that is matches your own site, you can kind of think about it as a customer. So go with a customer approach. And if you're feeling welcome and you like it, you'd probably like working there as well. And then just a company that's pretty well known, close enough to where my where I could reach them. And then I wanted to focus on Illinois and Chicago too, because that's probably where I would want to start out working. So I found Dr. Rachel Pridgeon actually at the Office of Student Involvement here at North Central. Background experience, she has extensive education and then numerous certifications. She's Myers-Briggs certified and then has a lot of directing experience in terms of Office of Student Involvement. And the reason why she was the best candidate in my eyes was she was very experienced. She worked with numerous schools in higher education and different age groups as well. She's also personable and true to herself. She's a businesswoman, but she's also a mother. So that's very personable to me because I like family time at home, but everyone else needs a job. So. In the interviewee, like I said before, I wanted them to be solidified in their field, not changing jobs, and accessibility and nearby location. Organization, mid-sized corporation, North Central kind of fit that. It just happened to be the person that I found was here, and then well-established, fun and active, parallel to my own characteristics. When I reached out to her, this is the elevator pitch I used. So I mentioned that I'm Paulina Bogdan. I'm an organizational communications and marketing major. I mentioned some of my leadership positions here and why I fell in love with student involvement. And then I just mentioned I was doing research on my career field and wanted to know more about the job. So I mentioned that she can reach out to me at her earliest convenience, which she did. And just at the end, thank her, saying I look forward to getting the questions answered and helping me solidify my knowledge about the career path. So I didn't say that I wanted a job. I just explained that I wanted to know a little bit about what she does. In terms of the questions for trends, I looked at pre-pandemic. I feel like COVID changed every workspace. So I wanted to see kind of what it looked like pre-pandemic, what has changed, what has stayed the same. And I also just wanted to know long and short-term goals for the company and the student involvement on campus, especially with those changes that might have happened. Insights, on her LinkedIn, I noticed that she started off as a chemistry major. So I want to ask her, have you always thought about directing or involvement? Has that been a passion? You just graduated with chemistry during your undergrad because that's something that your parents were choosing for you or something like that? And then how's your school experience? I want to ask her about risks that she might have taken, obtaining certifications, any challenges between her home and work life. And then finally, obviously, what made her choose North Central? Why here? For advice, I wanted to ask her what is one thing that she recommends people going to the field, especially seniors in high school, what can they do to kind of follow her path? And then maybe not to follow her path. Is there anything that she would have done differently in her career? Maybe a mistake that she made or something that she would have done differently. Resources, has she found any helpful websites or studying methods? I know some people really like, I think it's called like a Pomodoro method where you study for 25 minutes and then break that up. Was that beneficial to her? Maybe similar things because similar classes might yield similar results. And then does she have any contacts? And I actually asked her this in the email too, because I know she's a pretty busy woman. So I asked her if there was any assistance or anything that could help along the way. She actually did reach out to me, so I have the contact information, which was great for networking. And then just someone else at North Central, so like an assistant or secretary. And finally, for assignments, what is her favorite project that she's worked on here? An average day, and if there's any large assignments coming up. So overall, I'm very excited to learn about her career and what she does for North Central. I feel it will be a good thing for me to think about my career choice and then also just learn about the school with leadership positions, I feel like I can also implement those for you guys and for the school in general, and for myself because I go here. And overall, that's it.
Ben?
Oh, okay, good.
Yet your last name?
Stammer.
Okay, got it.
Hi, my name is Jackie Stammer, and this is the work I did. So to recap, I'm in digital marketing and social media and some other things about this industry is it's changing a lot. It has a special active Twitter community, which is very unique to the industry. And it can be a very hit or miss with a lot of companies because just the job descriptions are very, very different. So understanding the landscape can be quite difficult and it can be very broad or very tailored at the same time. So to look at someone who I wanted to talk to, I followed these guidelines. I wanted them to be in a similar age range at the top class as well, to someone who has experienced social media, landscape, and digital marketing in the recent years. They understand the similarities. They have kind of been native in that space instead of kind of trying to catch up learning later on in life. I also wanted to aim for someone who has worked in some of the top companies because it can look very different working for, let's say, Facebook and their social media than for some nonprofit, for example, that is local. And I want someone who has a range of experiences so that I could kind of pick their brain as I already have some experience on my own. I want to learn more about where I want to go next instead of how can I start out. So I found Chris Peanut. We are already connected on Twitter. We talk a lot. But he is a very great guy. He's a social media manager currently at Harvard College Publishers, so he works with a lot of children's books. But previously, he has also worked with HBO Max, with Snapchat, with Fox, with MTV, and BuzzFeed. He told me that he has actually worked with Catfish. That was one of his first jobs, was making memes out of Catfish show the whole time and running their social media. And he also has had different roles. He has been more on social media. He has been specifically on the content creation side, but he has also been working with a lot of editorials. So my pitch to him was very casual because we're already connected on Twitter, and Twitter is a more casual space in general. And in the marketing world, we kind of enjoy that space where you don't have to be very professional. When you like try to do each other on LinkedIn, you would probably still keep it more professional, but Twitter is just very approachable, and it's made a lot of high up people be very accessible to, I guess, lower in their career people. So it was very casual, saying, hey, I'm at a turning point in my career, trying to figure out which part of the digital marketing and social would I want to keep building next. I told him that he's one of my role models because literally anything he does, he makes it seem so fun. And I just wanted to pick his brain about a couple of things. So I offered to buy him a virtual coffee meetup. And I told him that in my last position, I got to try a lot of things, but I want to figure out what's the future of these jobs. As I said, they can change so much. So researching also the company, I took a brief look at kind of the previous job posts that these companies have posted, what they emphasize there, but also the company website, about their values, about what is going on inside the company. You can see that also on social media. A lot of them have now employer profiles or employer takeovers and Insta stories, and rating sites as well, because rating sites, you can see people rating what did they think about the job. So I could ask him more questions about that. And with Chris and trends in general, I look kind of like past, present, future. So past, like his education, what the past trends have been, titles and companies, current projects, current trends, as well as what he thinks is important skills currently. And then future, how it all might change. So same trends, skills, roles, and environment. What does he think will be the future looking like for social media and marketing jobs? So I came up with a couple of questions, but it's very just conversational based. And I didn't always come up with 4 questions for each topic, but I bet we have a lot of follow-ups, but they're mostly focused on, I already have some experience, I want to build on top of that and figure out a new direction. So for example, asking under trends, so many companies are narrowing their digital roles down to niche categories while others are making them so incredibly broad. What do you think is the future of our jobs and how can we prepare to stay relevant? Because I think that is one of the biggest challenges. It's kind of like you only get so much out of college, you only get so much out of each position. But if you look at some positions, they're looking for a unicorn who can do it all. And some are looking for someone who literally just fills out the Instagram caption at all times and doesn't do anything else. Also asking about life in some of the big name companies. As I said, he's worked at a lot of different ones like HBO Max, MTV, or Snapchat. So kind of comparing what is life there. Is it as fast paced as they say it is? Is it more tailored because of that? Do they have more people who only do one movement and give it up to the next? Also asking about the different social media platforms and talking about its future. Where do you think what will be our assigned roles in the future and what does he like to do? How did he decide that this is the route that he wants to go? Insights as well, like his early career, what did it look like? Some of the biggest lessons he has learned in moving up, and definitely how did he figure out that these specific job titles are the ones that he's chasing, and what does he look for in new job descriptions? Resources. It used to be that, if you know Adobe, you're great for this job, but programs are changing. A lot of people are just using Canva now. So asking about softwares, asking about how to make the most time out of my college career. So what is there any point of taking, for example, intro to graphic design? Will it help me, or is it something that I can learn on my own instead? And what are the main skills you wish fresh graduates would have that would help them in their early career? That's something I've been asking everyone because the answers are always very different and interesting. And then assignments, just kind of what does his day-to-day look like? Is there anything he was surprised to learn that is part of his job? Anything that he was always told like this will be your job and then it wasn't? So just kind of picking his brain about what to look for really when talking about my own job positions and how does this differ, kind of what you want to go towards and what you don't.
Who wants to go next? Yeah, do you know what you're to be?
Yeah, we're talking next week.
All right, who's going? I have to open up your. So do you put it in Blackboard?
Oh, yes.
Okay. That's me.
Summers.
Okay.
That's you.
With the indices. Summers. Yeah, there you go. Slideshow. Right. And,
Y'all have really cute presentations, not just 2 colors with no graphics. All right.
Just go there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Alrighty. So I had 4 guidelines in my search for someone's interview. First, I want someone who is obviously certified, like who knows what they're talking about, knows about the career. 2, I want someone with experience, so someone who has been in the career for a while and is understanding the trends of the career. Availability, someone who has the capacity to do an interview. I don't necessarily want to be like chasing down someone to interview them. And then also communication skills. I want someone who, I mean, I think if you've been in the career for a while, you're used to using that like tough jargon. And so I want someone who's able to explain things in simpler terms for someone who's like a beginner like me. So my search led to a family friend. His name's Troy Greeley. I think he'd be the perfect person to interview because he's been in the career for 20+ years. And so he obviously has a lot of experience and knows what he's doing. And the second reason is because he's a family friend, not a job recruiter. So he's not necessarily going to be trying to like sell me the job or anything, or like trying to get me to work for the company. I think he'll give me a very like upfront, honest advice about not only the advantages, but also the disadvantages of being a financial advisor. And then third, I grew up playing basketball with his daughter, and so I've known him since like grade school. And so I think he knows my personality and my strengths and weaknesses very well, to the point where he can kind of tailor advice to me instead of just giving me very like broad general advice. Research. So I started with social media. I looked up Troy on LinkedIn, and I kind of got familiar with his educational and work background. And that's where I found he works for Wells Fargo. So then I went to Wells Fargo's LinkedIn and then their company's website to learn more about their goal and like their mission and everything. And then from there, I looked up like job openings, job postings, and specifically one for a financial advisor, just to get a better idea of like what would be expected of me if I were to enter that career. My pitch, I'm not gonna necessarily redo the whole thing, but I kind of just like expressed my interest in interviewing Troy, asked for his availability, and then also said that I'm open to either a phone or a video interview. And I thanked him in advance for his time. So trends. I wanted to know, after working fully remote in a pandemic, if it's necessary for financial advisors to return to fully in-person work. I wanted to know about the job projection. Is there a possibility that the process could be automated or taken over by technology? I wanted to know about the innovations in cybersecurity and fraud mitigation, and also our opportunities to innovate in new revenue creating areas. Insights. I wanted to know how Troy was introduced to financial advising, if it was something he always wanted to do or something he like accidentally stumbled upon. I wanted to know about the challenges he faced throughout his career path, and how he overcame those challenges. I want to know a little bit more about the exam process and if there was like a specific exam that he had more challenges with. And then I also wanted to know how he built his client base, if he started with friends and family, or if like Wells Fargo kind of gave him people to start off with, he built from there. Advice. I want to know, looking back, if there was anything you wish you would have done differently, anything you kind of like warn me about. I wanted to know if a finance major makes you like more attractive in the market, because I am an actuarial science major, and so I wanted to know if that would kind of like set me back, make me less competitive. I'm going to ask how important it is to have an internship when looking for a full-time position, and the best strategies for building a clientele and where to start. Resources. I'm going to ask what kind of platforms and software he uses to communicate and collaborate not only with coworkers but also clients. And then what materials he found most helpful when studying for exams. And lastly, assignment. I wanted to know what his day-to-day looked like as a financial advisor. Pre-pandemic, how much he traveled, or if he just stayed in the Northwest Ohio area. I want to know how much time he spent working with clients versus just like crunching numbers at his desk by himself. And what his hours look like, if they're flexible, if he has time for vacation, or if he's ever like so overloaded with work that he has to work overtime. For my final thoughts, before this assignment, I was not familiar with the TR method. And so I think this is a very good method of getting a wide range of questions. These like categories force me to think of different types of questions I would ask Mr. Greeley. And so questions that I wouldn't have like thought of before. And so I really like this approach to conducting an interview.
Yes, who's going to go? It's on that one. Okay.
Eugene, what's your last name?
Ronaldo.
Okay. Yeah, good. Yes, just a few seconds. All right, whenever you're ready, we are here.
Hi, everyone. So accounting is a pretty general umbrella term. So I thought for my search guidelines, I thought it was important to find someone with strong work experience that is relevant to my interests, which would be in public accounting as well as a focus in tax and consulting. And they should also have some industry relevant qualifications, such as a CPA, which is a certified public accountant, or a CMA, or a certified managerial accountant. They should also have an MSA or an MST, which is a Master's of Science in Accounting or a Master's of Science in Taxation. And then they should also have any programs or technological certifications that'll be relevant in the industry. So for this, I chose Mike, who is a family friend, and he's the best candidate based off of his background. So he spent about 10 years, a little over 10 years in the accounting industry. He is specialized in tax consulting, which is exactly what I'm interested in. He has both his CPA as well as his MST, and he is also a QuickBooks Pro Advisor and a Sage and Tax Specialist, which are both popular forms of technology that are popular in the industry. So I researched a little bit about Mike on his personal LinkedIn, as well as the projects that he's looked on. And then for the company and the industry as a whole, I researched some relevant trends that could be applicable, other qualifications and certifications that are available. And then the company, I looked at their website, as well as their reviews and the types of clients that they serve, as well as just general word of mouth from professors and colleagues. So here's my pitch. I just explained a little bit about me, that I'll be graduating soon, and I'm looking to go into the public accounting industry, and that I'm interested in learning based off his past experience and asking for some advice. And then I just let him know if he could reach out at his earliest convenience. So for trends, I wanted to focus on automation as well as technology, because that looks like where the industry is headed. So I wanted to ask, how has automation served a role in your work experience? And where do you think the expansion of automation is headed in the accounting industry as a whole? How have clients responded to the trends in the industry, and what impact does it have on their work? And also, are there any other trends that are relevant or growing in the industry that I should be aware of? And then just for some general insights, I just wanted to know what attracted and keeps them attracted to the industry. And even though accounting can seem to be monotonous and boring work at times, do you have any feel-good moments that you're proud of and help motivate you? And is possessing any certain trait or skill set a strong indication of success in the industry? And also, was obtaining your MST a valued degree for your employer, since that is also something that I am looking into post-graduation? And then just for some general advice, are there any additional courses or minors that you recommend taking to build knowledge? I know that data analytics is very popular in the industry as well. What should I be doing post-graduation to prepare myself for entering the industry? Do you have any tips that helped you successfully pass your CPA exam, since I will be planning to sit for this summer? And then is there anything that you know of now that you wish you knew when you were in my position? And then just for some general resources, what sources of information do you use to stay up to date in the industry? And then what resources do you use to obtain CPE credit? So as a CPA, you need to get continuing education to keep your credentials. So I'm just curious as to what forms to use to get that. Are there any other tools or programs that you'd recommend? And do you attend any conferences that are related to the industry to help build knowledge? And then for the assignment, what did you do as a staff accountant, since that is what I will be going into? Are there any projects or assignments that you recommend that I take on as a challenge to be of value? How often do you perform research for clients as a tax consultant? And what are other frequent day-to-day tasks? And then just for final thoughts, I would hope to get some advice on the early stages of my career. And also I'm looking forward to hearing about other trends in the industry and how I can prepare myself to stay relevant.
Okay, thank you. Have you studied in the department?
Not yet, but I'll probably have to wait till after tax season.
Oh, yeah. Right. Who's going next? Can you put it in? Thank you. That's my alarm, so that's it. Sorry, but okay. Now, guys, give me your last name. Okay. S starts with S. Okay. Yeah, got it. No. Slideshow. Okay. Give me a second. Almost there. All right, okay, you can make it.
Some guidelines that I came up with, I kind of divided into two categories: interviewing in the company. So I want to interview who has experience in the software engineering IT services and who's familiar with best practices and methods in demand technologies, as well as some significant skills that's relevant in the industry. Also considering like maybe an interesting portfolio or any interesting portfolio projects, good availability and some unique interests, maybe like something that they do on the side that may not correlate to like what they do in the industry, but kind of is like a supplement. And for a company, I look for a company that values diversity and inclusion, who promotes continuous learning and development internally, as well as cares about healthy work-life balances, is team-oriented and cares about best practices, as well as the company size and location. I'm kind of okay with like working anywhere, but just like entry level, probably working like Chicago based. Has a good mission statement and maybe considering their affiliates and competitors in the industry. My research led to somebody, I think it's Brett Bush. I got connected with him through LinkedIn, technically from a mutual connection with my one of my favorite professors, Dr. Sinclair. He works at Logic Gate as a software engineer, and as he's self-employed as an indie game dev. And he's also a North Central alum from 2015. He majored in computer science and has a minor in music and mathematics. He has over 6+ years of experience in the industry. And he's more like centered around the web development and game development industries. And one quote that I kind of like that he has in this about section on LinkedIn is that he believes programming is a great medium, and that kind of resonated with me because I feel like there's a way to intersect creatives and technology. So some of my research about LogicGate, it's a cloud-based provider of GRC solutions and it's based in Chicago. It focuses more on enterprise level and clientele. There is like big businesses, I guess, and their services varies around industries. They work in healthcare, banking, as well as fintech. Brett works primarily with he builds APIs and works with databases and is familiar with like cloud services such as software as a service. His experience with unit testing, creating documentation, and his experience with cross-team collaboration. He's experienced with mobile development, both iOS and Android, and he creates 3D and 2D assets in Blender, which is more of his game dev
game development side, as well as software engineering industry. I learned about like various roles like front end, back end, and full stack, as well as relevant object-oriented programming languages and frameworks such as React and Angular. And I noticed that a lot of companies value people who like to learn new things on their own, as well as common practices as Agile and Scrum. This is a draft of my pitch. I haven't reached out yet, but this is what I would like. I'll introduce myself, like what I do, some insights that I want to learn from the industry, as well as requesting like a 30-minute meeting with them via phone or email. So the TR method, some trends. I would ask about like what are some engineering challenges that the company is currently facing, some benefits and downfalls of agile environment and development, and how do you stay like current in like the new technologies. Some more personal questions I'll ask about like what drew him to computer science, where does he see himself in like 5 to 10 years? If he could tell me like anything that didn't go as planned on like a project, as well as what was like the most exciting project he's worked on. For advice, I would ask for like what strengths to think about for a software engineer intern should have, as well as what measures to take to upskill, how to balance work life, and what are some thoughts on specific certifications and if certifications are valued in the industry. And how to stay current, I'll ask like how do you keep your current skills in good condition and how to stay current on best practices and methodologies, as well as what's something you think could be improved on industry, and how to find the right answer to something when you get stumped on like a problem or a project. As well as for assignments, I kind of want to ask like how does he organize his workflow and productivity levels and what the company's expectations are, as well as what are some general like meeting requirements in the industry. Is it is it remote, hybrid, or in person? Like what modality works best, and how often to make like how the client and employee interactions work. My final thoughts is doing this assignment, I kind of found that it was interesting to like understand like what particulars are in industry, as well as like what I should focus on in searching for internships and also like entry-level positions, and just creating my research and networking skills. That was it.
Thank you. What's your next? Adrian?
I'm scared for the next.
Oh, sorry. Who's going next? Arun. As nice to meet you, last name. Yourself. Great center. Oh. There you go. I can stop. There you go. There you go.
Okay, so my guidelines for finding someone to interview, to start off, I'm interested in forensic psychology, which is kind of a really broad field, like there's a lot of different tasks that you would cover. So I wanted to focus on something specific. And I have a lot of experience working with the data side and the science and research of that. So I really wanted to focus on the counseling aspect because I don't really have a lot of experience with the clinical side. So I was looking for someone in clinical psychology.
specifically something with at least 10+ years, because for clinical, you usually need at least a master's or a PhD beside you. So you're gonna spend a lot of that time in school. And I also want to find someone with a clinical license, so they're currently practicing, and wanted to see what kind of continuing education requirements that they were pursuing. So the person I'm going to interview is Dory Reisky. She's a clinical psychologist. She's been practicing for 20 years, and she's a family friend, so she has a lot of experience. Something really interesting about her is that she co-founded her own private practice, which I really like. It's something that's kind of aspirational for me. That can be a lot of work, so I really want to hear more about what she had to say about that. Other ways that you can find someone in psychology, just reaching out to family and friends. It's a really broad field. You can find someone pretty easily, and then also a lot of faculty members at North Central that teaches psychology and neuroscience are also practicing psychologists. So I know a lot of clinical psychologists that are also professors, as well as like IO psychologists as well. And then they also have a lot of references as well. So some research on the company, she co-founded North Star Counseling Group out of Mundelein, up in Lake County. And so I already have some information on where she works, what she does. She's a social worker and clinical psychologist. So looking through the website, they have a variety of services. So she works with individuals, couples, families, and then anything from depression, anxiety, family conflicts, PTSD, loss, grief, trauma. She works with a lot of wide topics. Something really interesting, she's also certified in EMDR, which is pretty recent therapy type. So it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So I really want to hear her talk a little bit more about that, because there's obviously some newer training that she had to go through to get certified to practice that. This would be my pitch, obviously, just introducing myself, telling her how I got her information, that I'm interested in learning more about crisis counseling and her kind of experiences that she has with that, and then just asking when she would be open to an interview. So looking at the trends, I'll ask about the process of starting her own private practice. What sets her apart, her private practice, what makes them different from anywhere else, what would make people want to go there instead of somewhere else, and then what kind of changes they had to make with the pandemic. So I know a lot of places went online. They have online counseling services, which can be kind of hard to make connections. So I wanted to really hear about her process there. And then if they plan to do those changes, how successful they've been. And then some insights, wanted to know about how she became interested in social work and clinical psychology. What personal skills would make you more successful in that aspect. What parts of her job she finds most satisfying, and then how well her college experience prepared her. And some advice, the skills that are most important for this field, what kind of experiences she would recommend, paid, unpaid, volunteering, and stuff like that. That would maybe make you more successful in clinical. And then similar what kind of education or training and background, and the difference between getting a master's or a PhD, what would be most helpful there. And then resources, again, I just wanted to see what kind of continuing education she's involved in. How she stays current on psychotherapy, and then staying up to date with the laws and regulations that are always enacted. And then looking at assignments, what she typically does in a day. I'd also like to hear about the business aspects, and she's a co-founder. She has a lot of administrative tasks as well. So I also thought that would be interesting to hear about. And my final thoughts, again, I just think she'd be really interesting to talk to. With over 20 years of experience, she has, she's worked with a lot of different people. Again, a lot of different clinical aspects I'd like to hear about, a little different than the psychological assessments and statistic side of things. That's it.
Thank you. Great. Let's go, Mark. Your last name, Mark? Okay. Yeah. Last name starts with
B.
V. All right. Great. Yeah, got it. Slideshow. Okay. You can start.
Okay. All right, so I'm a computer science major. So the field of computer science is very broad. So some of my guidelines that I'm looking for is that I want to find someone that has at least worked in the industry for like 5+ years, someone that has a wide range of experience with different tools and different programming languages, someone that has worked in both large and small teams, because most of the time when you're working on projects in different companies, it's all team-based. And it's just divide and conquer most of the time. Someone that has developed some small projects on their own that can gauge a little bit of their own experience and their kind of credibility. And then someone that has also been promoted to like a leadership position that can show better communication skills and how they work with teams, and how they work with just different coworkers at different companies, whether it's a laboratory or a company, either or. And then has a specific interest in my different type of topics. So I'm more interested in like data science and machine learning. So I want to find someone that's kind of a little bit tailored to what I enjoy. And then just in general has good communication skills to be able to communicate different topics back and forth between me. So then my search ended up leading to a professor that is currently working at our campus. His name is Clinton Garwood. And I found him just through NCC, and he has had 9 years of experience in the industry from different companies and part-time at Argonne Laboratories. He's interested in data science, machine learning, cloud computing development with some service side stuff, and then front-end development. And then he's worked both in large and small teams, as well as in leadership positions in those small and large teams. And then he has worked on many personal and professional projects that he has in both on like his LinkedIn and different websites that he has currently. So my prior research, it's kind of cliche, but I went with rate my professor first. That was kind of more or less just to gauge how other students felt about his teaching. Gave a little bit of, it judged a little bit of his credibility, a little bit. But he was spoken very, very highly of. And then I went straight to his LinkedIn page. That was able to show me some of his accomplishments and achievements, as well as the different places of employment that he worked at. Most of the companies that I found, I have not heard of, besides Argonne Laboratories. And then I also spoke with one of his previous students that he's had, and he spoke very highly of him. So I feel he's a perfect fit for what I'm looking for. So this is my interview pitch. I plan on doing it by email just because it's probably easy to reach out to him rather than doing a specific phone call. So I'm just going to, this is basically like a wireframe version of it, but I'm going to just introduce myself and then tell him about where I heard about him from, basically through the campus community, and then ask to set up an appointment if it's not convenient for the day that I am requesting, and then just thank him for his time and thank him for just everything else in general, and then looking forward to hearing from him. So some of the trends, these are the questions that I came up with. So I wanted to find out basically what a current path in the computer science industry that he feels is the most important and most needed to go into currently. And then potentially what is an upcoming path that he would also recommend viewing that might be in need. And then trending companies that really align with my interest of data science and machine learning. That way I can find something I really enjoy in my field. And then just some trending industry practices that are that employers are mostly looking for that might make me more valuable when I'm actually looking for a regular job instead or a career instead of just an internship. And then some insights. I'm interested in hearing how he started. Because the whole backing story of how they began to pursue their own careers, what's generally pretty important. It's nice to know. And then some challenges he faced along the way, which is something I can either avoid or work on for my own personal development. And then some meaningful projects that he's collaborated on or created, as well as some of his current goals and aspirations that I'm looking to hear about as well. So then some advice, I want to hear about mostly how to prepare for the industry in general, just learning about different topics of the industry, how to stay up on new technologies, looking at some of the ideal paths that are correlating to my specific interests of data science and machine learning. And then what to be aware of specifically when looking for a job in the industry with either a company or laboratory. And then some resources, just different trends, how to prepare for different trends, different topics, and then how to become familiar with different hardware and how to keep up with different expectations from employers. And then the assignment category, just some things I should expect and be doing to prepare for. And just how to also create relationships with people in the industry. And mostly that's about it. And then some final thoughts, just looking forward to learning more about him as a professor and the industry in general. And then I'm hoping for just personal and professional development for the industry and towards my own goals. And then from just form a professional relationship with him as well as coworkers in the industry.
All right. Thank you. I think 25 we end. So quickly, we have one more presentation.
I don't have.
Okay. You raise your hand. And that's the last. Those of you who are not able to do it today, let's see. I said stop right now. Sure. Kelly, that's name? T. Oh, T. Okay, that's it. This one needs to go. So, Colgate Center. Time. So much time. All right. T, got it. All right. Since our presentation is at the end, I could tell you, you have to talk to me, right? Regarding that, I asked you to stay back regarding that. So you are staying back. Avanta, please stay back. And those of you who have to talk, who has to talk to me, because all of you will exit right at 11:25. So if you have to talk to me, you can stay back and then talk. Okay. And at 11:25, when you're done, you don't have to stay back. Go. Enable editing. Slideshow from beginning. Right. Here we go. You have that. And you can start. Okay.
So me being a broadcaster pushed me to do my interview for a local radio station that was around here in Naperville. And I also wanted to focus on the type of genre of music that I'm comfortable with and know a lot about. So I did some research and I found The River in Naperville, which is a classic rock radio station. And how I kind of learned about it is I just read the website. I looked at a bunch of radio stations and found this one. This one seemed more intriguing and interesting to me because of some of the broadcasters that worked at the River. So I read their website and noticed they also offer internships and thought more about proceeding into an interview. So I selected a woman named Leslie Harris. She has a lot of experience with the radio. She's worked since 1982 in the broadcasting community. And she's also a female broadcaster, which is common, but not as common as most men broadcasters. And it is a little more difficult, I feel, to find jobs for some broadcasting fields. So I wanted to talk to a woman about the field, about how she got into the radio station. And depending on what hours she worked, I figured when starting a radio station coming out of college, if you got a job, it would probably be the later hours, not really the morning shifts working 9 to 5. It'll probably be the nighttime. So I saw her schedule and thought that she would pursue a lot of good answers to some of my questions. So with the research that I did for it is I basically looked up all the websites and I found the river. And what was interesting about the river is they had all their broadcasters listed, and they also had some things that they did back with the radio station. And there was another broadcaster named Rick. He actually interviewed Leslie, and they had that posted on the website. So like how an interview would go, how she got the job there, some questions that he asked her, how she went about it. So I thought that was really interesting. And their interview talks a little bit about the radio station as a whole and how they listen to, like how they do their music and how they handle it and how Leslie's personality fits with the radio station and their music. So that was super helpful to know about how going with the interview process and relating it to the job that you're applying for. And then also, if I looked, some research I did was on Leslie, her Facebook page and her Wikipedia, just because broadcasters like to put themselves out there and also know a little bit more about them. So basically how I went about it is I just told her I'm a broadcaster from North Central College and I graduate next year, May 2023, and telling her how I focus on classic rock and how I wanted to go about getting a job after May of 2023 at preferably a classic rock radio station, and how I would go about that and how she could meet with me to cover the basis of that. So some of the questions and trends that I asked is, I asked about the radio station first, like how the river works and how she's a broadcaster, how it makes the river more successful. How do people tune in to listen to you? Why, how is your content good enough to perform on air? How do you relate it to the music that you're playing? And some significant changes that has happened throughout the radio station and why the station focuses on classic rock and how that would help or different the other radio stations out there. I also asked some insights of what she did, like how she got to the position that she was at. So going out of college, becoming a broadcaster, not having some experience of being on the radio before in like 1982, how did you just jump into it? How did you overcome like being nervous, or how did you work well with the other broadcasters at the radio station? And then I asked her for some advice also, like what would you pass down to newcomers coming into this profession, and how would you make someone comfortable at this field, and what do you recommend with doing things to be absolutely successful when you first come to a radio station? And I'm from St. Louis, Missouri, so I probably wouldn't ideally get a job in Naperville, but what are some other jobs that could help me prepare for trying to find a radio station job in St. Louis? Do you recommend traveling before you find a set position? And then basically, lastly, I just asked, how do you have a life and keep up with your current job? Because she works late hours, so how is that? Is it doable? How did you get your name out there? How did you establish the Leslie Harris broadcaster figure? And how do you also have the broadcaster figure, Leslie Harris, but also
have a family and a life outside of that with working late hours, because that was probably something that I would be interested in the future. And then basically like how I went about it and how I asked with assignment wise, like how do other jobs interest you, and how did you pick this one, and how did you transition being successful on air, and then working a full-time job, like I said. And then just my final thoughts. I was a little bit nervous about the interview process. I didn't know if she would respond because I have no idea who this is. I had no contact with who this person was. And how, like, if I would say that this was for a class that she would be interested, or I was just nervous kind of doing that as a whole, but I think it turned out pretty well. So.
Thank you. All right. Now we have about 2 more minutes at your time, and those of you who are not getting, who are not able to go today, you'll be going tomorrow. I think April 4th. Then Cecilia was Joseph, and that's it. I think. So 4 or 5 things will be going. All right. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Before you go, if you guys have a second, I'm running for SG president to get into this campaign. I need signatures. I just have to get in. So if you guys want to stay spare time now.
All right.
There's like.
Yeah. So I can just review it with you. Which assignment did you get? First, let me just do the.
I don't remember what the name of the assignment was.
LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
I'll show it to you. Come here. Every day. And what was your issue with that one? Let me, because if I don't get.
I put 4 things on the discussion board.
Okay.
Like I uploaded them all on
And
the
I,
discussion
so
board.
LinkedIn, right? What's your last name?
Tadero T.
T. Okay, so I did give you points here. There was nothing here in the discussion, right? And you put it in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it just said like 0 out of 3 or something.
Okay.
And I uploaded like 4 things in there on the
Okay.
discussion board.
Let me just change it right now, so that you, again, where did it go? LinkedIn assignment, yeah, PowerPoint. So PQRST. So he said you already put it in, so 3 points. It just doesn't want to let me. What happened? Wait, strong. A, B, C, D. Okay, let me just do it. Cali. Okay, so let me go to view detail, revert. Okay. I will make a revert this value. Yes. So now, column detail Cali. Manual override. Right. Okay, so you did see, I see this is number lock. Okay, so that's why. Okay, so save. All right. So now going back to full grade center. Cali. Here you go. And you did say that you did turn in that extra thing that you did on Canvas, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you have been given a grade.
Okay.
And the extra one that you said, I made a note of that. I'll give it to you at the end of the, or maybe I'll just add right now.
Okay.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. We are done. Avanti, what happened? I haven't seen you for a while. Come here.
I've been going through a bunch of this.
Okay. I thought you dropped out of the course.
I did not.
Okay.
I found it very difficult to wake up in the morning some days.
Are you physically, your health is good?
At one point it was a health issue, but I got that sorted out, honestly, like 4 days ago. So
Okay.
I'm feeling better now.
Okay. Did you talk to your advisor about the length of time? Do you have an advisor to work with?
I do. I don't need them often,
Okay.
but I do have.
Okay, so this is where we are. You missed a chunk of this course. Okay, so if there is a, attendance policy that we have, and it requires you to, without, it will show on your grade, because there were several assignments that we did in class assignments that you cannot do it anymore.
Okay.
Okay, so now the major ones that you have missed is here. So excessive absences will over, so our absences are, I can tell you the number of classes that you missed. All right, so that will have an impact on the grade. Now, having said that, this is what you can do. Okay, so this is Avante is here. So the LinkedIn assignment is not, we did this one in class before, this was an in-class assignment. There is a LinkedIn assignment, there's an elevator pitch. These are two major assignments that you missed. Okay, now you will hear for the post your informative speech thing, and you need to post it. Okay, informative, all of this, if you look at announcement section, I have videos that we did in class, and I've sent you all videos, guidelines. These are YouTube videos and these are class recordings. Some of them have class recordings. Again, this one is a class recording. So see LinkedIn assignment, this one, watch this video for a recap of LinkedIn. So this should be good. I have actually recorded everything. So that should be easy for you to go back. See, you've missed your LinkedIn assignment, you missed your elevator pitch. Okay. And I don't think, do we have anything for elevator pitch here? Yes, I think this one, the interview assignment, elevator, and this one may have, you have to just check and see. Okay, which, here. This one is the elevator pitch. Elevator pitch tomorrow, maybe LinkedIn, so both of them, okay? So just check the videos, because that's how. And then once you check the video, go to PowerPoint. These are the ones that everything, look at the missed ones. Say LinkedIn, elevator pitch, informative interview, and presentation slides. Okay, to do that, give me a date when you can turn it in. Give me a reasonable date, and then I will have to.
I will try to get everything that has not been done.
Okay, all right, okay, all right.
I did, I raised my hand, like I didn't turn it in, but I had
Okay,
the presentation.
okay, let's just stop recording this one. All right, okay. And yeah, no, this record, you have to.
It's not recorded.
It's not recording anymore?